And we're live. Welcome to the front row seat where it's all about you because you're doing it. I have a guest today that I met in Europe at the event that I went to with Tom Campbell. It was his retirement event. And I had two conversations with Bill, and I was just amazed at the fantastic discoveries that Bill made. Bill O'Brien is an aircraft engineer. He's the father of two daughters. He's an uncle, he's a brother and a son, and friend to all. He's also a consciousness explorer with unstoppable curiosity. Welcome, Bill. Welcome to the front row seat.
Hi, Cheryl. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
Well, I just found our talks at Beamish Hall fascinating. You had taken the information, that Tom has been putting out there a long time, that, we can't have love in our lives, and we can't have all that if we have a lot of fear, and that we need to work through that fear so that we can love others and we can be open and kind and connect with others. And as I was talking to you, you talked about something very important that I've heard other people talk about too. It's like, well, I don't really have any fears, and I don't have that. So, but there's still something going on under the engine there. So can you speak a little bit about what we talked about?
Yeah, certainly, Cheryl, of course. Back to it, the fears. Many years ago, I heard Tom Campbell say that. He said, the more fear that you have, the more things stack up against you, in a sense, just paraphrasing, but that's it. And he said, identify your fears and one by one work at letting them go or getting rid of them. But I like everyone else, I'd found that difficult because, I had the same reaction. It's like, well, I don't have any fears. And for me, fear is an acute, in the moment thing. And so the definitions didn't work. And I came to the realization that we all have slightly different definitions for the words we use. And so what fear may be to somebody else may not be the exact definition for me. And so I thought over it, and with finding fears and what I'd realized, a lot of self-questioning, but also a lot of talking to people every day and listening very carefully to them. And it turned out that I wouldn't categorize it as fears. It seems that all of it stems from, first off, primarily would be a lack of awareness of yourself, of that we are also somebody. We know everybody else, and the people who are going to be watching this and listening to this and around everybody, generally speaking, everyone's doing better. They're trying to be kinder. They're healing, or they're trying to heal internally. So it's this is what we're doing, and personally the same. And I realized that was a very hard sell. If one, you don't know that you're a person, and two, if you don't know that, how are you going to navigate and guide you through it all, find anything in it? And so I started to realize that primarily the fear is you're just talking bad to yourself. You're giving yourself a lot of guff, and which is normal, but it's not helpful.
No.
And it's, generally speaking, and you can maybe speak to this a bit in your own experience, it's also not fair.
It is not fair because, we treat our friends and others around us way better than we treat ourselves. And I think as we, we are in this kind of learning place where we learn and grow, when things happen, we just blame ourselves and incessantly, put ourselves up on the rack over it, when really there is no such thing as mistakes. It's just another opportunity to learn something and learn and grow from it. But I think when I did this too, I turned this powerful energy of a creator being that I am and that you are and that we all are in on myself, and was thinking in myself in really negative ways, and that is just, it stops your growth. It hurts your life. It doesn't make anything better. And you don't realize you're doing it. It's just kind of, oops. And, a thing I wanted to kind of swing back to was how fears have different definitions. And so the definition for you was kind of like what? Standing on a cliff. You'd said something about that. What was your definition of fear in your mind?
Well, for me, fear is in the moment and acute. So it's something that comes up, is alive in that time.
Right,
So, like I say, the big one that's easy to conceptualize is you're standing right on the edge of a tall cliff, looking down on rocks and big waves breaking. Right.
right.
Let into your head the fact that someone's going to come up behind you and shove you off it. Right.
Yeah,
That for me is an acute fear because you can feel it. It's physiological as well as
yes,
a mental process, and you feel the butterflies in the stomach, and the senses are a little different. Everything operates differently in our bodies when you have
right.
that acute fear. So for me, that's what fear is. Or it can be maybe not as acute, little longer term. You're afraid of a bridge is going to collapse that you cross every day, or this kind of thing.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't have put it as those are inside me, impeding my spiritual progress or impeding me in what I'm trying to achieve in my life. I didn't correlate them. For me, there wasn't a correlation, and I couldn't, because of that, I couldn't find them.
you couldn't
All
find
right.
them. So to you,
Yeah,
well, I don't have fear. I only have fear if I'm fixing to be shoved off a cliff.
pretty much. Yeah. And
Right,
so the definition, it just didn't work. And
right,
so for a long time, I was searching for them, but with the wrong definition. And so they weren't there. I couldn't find that.
right.
And it turned
And it
out to
impeded your
be,
growth. You couldn't grow because you're just like, well, I don't have that. And then when you did have, it's like, well, this is not what I'm trying to look for. You couldn't find it in yourself where
mhm,
where that underlying problem was. So I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to
not at
clarify
all.
what
Mhm.
your definition of fear was, because I think a lot of other people have that same definition. Well, that means if I walk into somewhere and then a saber-toothed tiger sitting there, that's but I don't have those internally. This is something that happens in the moment at the time. But
Mhm.
but it is an internal thing that we're talking about and
Mhm.
growing past this. So one of the main things you found was how things happen to us and that we really start battering ourselves with this powerful energy that we are. So could you continue on with that conversation?
Certainly. Um, yeah, it's back to the we call it the F bomb, fair, the fair word, right? Well,
Yeah.
really, it's you make a mistake internally. All of us, bar maybe I don't know somebody, but pretty much anybody I've ever spoken to, and
Yes.
also myself, you make a mistake or you think you do, and you hold on to it for way longer than you need to. And if you could hear out loud the internal dialogue, it's much rougher and harsher and just more unkind than you would
Yes.
offer that to your best friend. And how I realized, what I came to realize was it's one, it's not fair, and two, it's not honest. It's not truthful. Because if you use the analogy of the best friend, if you say, okay, my best friend made these mistakes, made the same mistake I made,
Yeah.
and they come to me and they say, okay, Bill, I've made this mistake. What's your best advice? Well, I'm going to really think about it, and I'm going to give them what I believe is best advice. And it'll usually be, well, nothing's ever as big as you think it is. Nothing's ever as bad as you think it is. So those are two kind of rules that seem to be always there. And don't beat yourself up. Don't hang on to it, right? The mistake can take 5 seconds, but you hang on to it for 5 weeks.
Or
So
10
that's out of
years.
balance. Or 10 years, or 5 years, or 5 decades, right?
Yeah.
Pick, pick your length of time, pick your poison. And
Right.
so, yeah, so the bottom line was, right, okay, so if that's the case, start off by being honest and fair. And the reason I say that is because to start building a relationship with yourself when you haven't had one, or we've had one that's been, we're unaware of it. And once we become aware of it, it's very unfair and mostly negative. You give
Yes.
yourself way more guff than you give your best friends or family.
Mhm.
And you give your best friends and family your genuine, honest, heartfelt, and logical solution and truth. So you're being with them as honest, as practical, and as fair as you can be, but you don't do that with yourself. You give yourself a hard, hard time over a long time, and you don't let it go. Now, picture yourself doing that to your friend, your best friend, or person in your life that you love the most, or you care the most about, or that you're trying to help the most. You never do that. And
No.
never. And one of the reasons, well, the main reason why it feels so off is because it is a lie. And anytime you'd lie to yourself by omission or commission, you're going to feel off.
Yeah.
And think into your own lives, everyone who's watching and listening, and ourselves too, you'll know it. You'll always know when you're telling the lie, whether it's verbally or whether it's internally, that you're being
Yes.
unfair, you're telling a lie. You just know, it just feels off. Now, over a long enough time, that feeling gets more and more maybe suppressed, but it's still there. There's the shadow of it always calling, saying something feels off. And that's how I would describe it. It isn't that it's a red light flashing going, oh, well, that's a lie. Something feels off.
You're
Maybe you
just
don't know
not
what it is,
comfortable.
but it just, yeah,
You can't get
it
comfortable
just
with
feels off.
yourself. Yeah. And you can't trust yourself either. Because if you're
Of
feeling that
course
way
not.
about yourself, you're like, well, I better watch every P and Q that I make because I'm going to make a mistake and really screw everything up.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's a surefire glue that'll stick you to making mistakes. It's it's very, very, very true. And that's it. And so once I kind of understood that, I thought, okay, well, how do you go then about resolving that relationship? Finding out, first off, hearing that inner self, that voice, realizing that you are, or we all are, people too. And so you have to, well, I know it is funny, but
it is
it's
funny
also,
because you don't think of yourself. Well,
no.
you're like the first person player here in the simulation, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is accounted for and present except for you.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
So we
Because
got to throw ourselves
we're
into the
looking out.
pile.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's it.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, we're inside looking out mostly, and so it's all others. But that's okay. But it wears you down, and ultimately, it's frustrating, and it takes away satisfaction all the time because it's niggling away at you, and everything that's happens in life, everything we do, achieve, or don't achieve, has something missing from it because we're living a lie. And
Yeah.
we're not doing it, not acting nice or trying to be in something that we shouldn't be in and pretending. It's that we're living a life from that fundamental misunderstanding, that we're giving ourselves more guff than anyone else. So you're on a lie and you're starting off on the wrong foot. So it's very hard for anything downstream of that to work as good as it should or feel as good as it should, or in fact, be satisfying. And
Yes.
satisfaction is a moment to moment in nearly every moment thing. You just feel that you're satisfied with how things go. You're satisfied with being in the process of getting somewhere, being in the process of having a new thought, being in the process of whatever's going on. You can feel it satisfying. And I say that because now I feel that. Having worked through it and understood it and then built up, one, the awareness that we all are, people too, and then building up the relationship, listening to that, going, well, what would I like, right? Because we're also, especially in around people like yourself and folks, we were at the MBT event in Beamish Hall, and anybody who's curious about consciousness, anybody who's involved with healing, anybody who's involved with personal growth, I mean, pretty much everybody really, but more especially because we tend to be pushing more on the leading edge of it, and not having that satisfaction and not having that little thing. We have all the knowledge, we have most of the actions, but there's still that something missing. So we're always chasing it, and it turns out to be listening to yourself, trusting yourself, knowing that you're there, and building up, starting off by one is the acknowledgement that I'm also a person.
Yes.
Once you acknowledge that, you say, well, okay, I'm a person then that I'm responsible for taking care of.
Yes.
Right? And so if we start with that and we use that, think, well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'll start by, like anybody stranger, you come up, I'm going to start by getting to know me. And
Yeah.
so what am I listening to music? Simple stuff. Am I listening to the music I like?
Yeah.
Am I looking at things that I like? Am I talking to people that I like? Am I thinking thoughts that are good for me, that I like? Or am I starting, is there the old habit, because we're not aware of it, but the old habit of the repetitive thought that's usually negative. It's just a
Yes.
habit. It's not even conscious. So as we build a relationship, we become much more conscious of what we're thinking.
Yes.
And so at that, we can start to slow down and just let go, never try to stop a negative thought because it spins it up. But
Right.
we can be like, okay, there's a negative thought. You can leave it be and think, well, now I know what I don't want. What would I like to think about? So if you're
Yes.
giving yourself some guff, I wasn't as kind, I didn't hold the door, I didn't say goodnight in the right way, or pick whatever. I mean, there's everything you can ever imagine. You can tell yourself you've done it wrong, right? So
Yes.
yeah, and so you think, okay, I'm guffing myself for this. Well, what would be something that would be true, fair, and kind? How would I say
Right.
that? And use those questions. Use how and use what. So how would I say that better? How would I say that in a way that is fair, kind, and just, yeah, that to myself, ask myself that question. Have I been fair? How is that fair? And that will align up what you think about yourself, what you think about what you've done or what has happened to you. And it's very, very, very empowering. And before empowering, it brings a sense of you feel the value in yourself starting to rise.
Yes.
Because another thing that comes with being unfair to yourself, speaking badly to yourself,
Yeah.
mostly unconsciously. I don't mean we're picking out. It's just a loop that it's like a bad habit. It's just a bad habit that keeps going. Well, we don't realize it, but we've devalued it. It's like the value of ourselves has gone down.
Yes.
And
And we
as you
don't
get
feel
a handle
worthy.
on it,
We don't feel
absolutely,
worthy of any of the good stuff that's coming our way. So in a
sure.
sense, we're sabotaging even the good things in our life inadvertently, not being aware of these subconscious negative things that we think about ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't even know we're doing it. And this road to me is like it's like the journey back to the self. And in that process, as you journey back to who you truly are and the wonderful beings that we are here, we're the best things going on here right now. We're it,
I agree.
And as you journey back to that and you start finding all these, things within yourself that you just really didn't pay attention to because you're thinking all that negative stuff and being mean to yourself, you start finding all these things, and then your value and your worth starts to rise. And then you're an active player in this world with everyone else, and that you have a lot more value than you ever thought that you had. And with that, then you can start being kinder to yourself. So it's almost like you were spiraling down and now you've turned it around and you start going up the other way, where you can truly become a power in this world that can change lives and help others, which is what I found you doing the whole time. In Europe, you were the whole time you were there, you were helping everybody around you. And I just found you lovely. Anyway, enough about that. Okay, what are we talking about?
You were saying about the self empowerment and your value rising, and it's excuse me, that's very true. I would say this when we're all on this path all the time. So it isn't
Yes.
like I know what I'm doing and anyone else doesn't. It's not that. Wherever you are, you can help somebody else because they're at a different place. They'll know more in certain areas and maybe they need help in other areas. That's how we all are all across the planet, all across the world. But I would say this, as it happens, be very gentle and very forgiving as you learn who you are, as you learn to speak a little bit less harsh to yourself. It has to be done. Do it incrementally. Don't try and today, I'm doing this, going to change it tomorrow. Because what I've found is if that's the process, any little slip from it, and it's even nearly worse. So
Right.
look at it like little victories. Every little thing you think, now this will sound small and mundane, but it really isn't. It's just another thing. You make yourself a cup of coffee, right? Just in a moment when you're making it, pay attention to it and think, this is going to be a really nice cup of coffee I'm making for myself. And when you drink it and you taste it, the intent has gone into it. And if it tastes good and you like it, that's a small victory. That's a little victory. And so in that you go, oh, that's so nice. I'm glad I made that for myself. That feels really good. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, cheers.
Cheers.
Right? And So it's small stuff like that. It isn't, don't jump into, oh, well, I helped to pick somebody off the road. I stitched up their wounds on the side of it with a needle and thread. And then I give them £1,000 and give them a new bicycle. That's a big, so it's not huge things.
Right.
Everything is little victories all through your day, every day of your life. And
Yeah.
it's the little things every day that add up. It's not one big thing every now and then, because those are random events. But
Right.
events like, how do you feel when you come through the door? How do you speak
Yeah.
to people when they come through the door?
Yes.
When you, like I said, down, you're making a cup of coffee, take just a moment and think, oh, I'm going to make a really nice cup of coffee for myself.
Yes.
And understand this, it's not about blowing yourself up like a balloon. It's
Right.
about treating yourself like somebody you're getting to know, that you're going to build a friendship with, that is of value. This person's a high value person in terms of they're really somebody you want to know.
Yeah.
There's somebody you know that you click with. You know that you're going to be good friends. You know you're going to have a good life. You know that you can feel that alignment. You can feel that click. Well, build that with yourself first. Now, some of the cool things that grow out of this, well, obviously, one is incrementally, you just feel a little bit more and more satisfaction as the day goes on. Importance of that is the more you build the practice of it, the more you practice it. The more you practice it, the easier it is. The
Yes.
easier it is, the more it naturally has its own attraction power. And
Right.
so you'll notice your life just lines up that little bit easier. Um, People are just that little bit nicer
Yes.
because
Yes.
they'll
Yeah.
meet you where you are.
Yes.
Everybody meets you where you are when you meet them.
Yeah.
If you're in any way aware of yourself, and if you've built up this process where you're like, well, I like meeting people. You can give yourself a talk every day. It's like, I like meeting people. I'm going to enjoy the interactions. And you kind of get out ahead of it a little bit and plan stages of your day, or plan how things are going to go just in your head. So it's fun, not an intense, white knuckles grip and death grip thing, but
Right.
make it light, make it fun. And just, so if it works out, great, acknowledge and enjoy. If it all goes to pot, do you think, well, there'll be a reason for it. So let's see where that goes. Rather than be down on it in the moment, just think, well, no, I don't know. That happy with the uncertainty is so amazing. It's so powerful when you use it in the right place. Um, and I find that that's something. The happiness with uncertainty and the being content with not knowing how things are going to go. Well, that becomes much easier as the process of building the relationship with yourself improves. And that relationship is the less you give yourself love, the more you appreciate yourself, and again, treat yourself like you would treat everyone else that you love, right?
Right.
That you're not unfair, that you're not telling lies. Like, that's
Yes.
fundamental. That's a fundamental thing. But as we do it internally, without even thinking about it, the value rises. And so anybody around you, you don't have to act, you don't have to behave in any other way. You just naturally are in a, your how you are evolves and changes. And so how people meet you changes. What they offer you changes. What lines up for you changes. And back to, you commented earlier in the podcast that we make our own reality. And we do for the most part. But we can choose it. We can envision it like the stages through a day and just think, well, this is going to work out really nice. Someone's going to be nice to me. Someone's going to maybe offer me something nice. It could be a cup of tea. It could be a whatever it is nice, depending on where you are in your life or in your work, it'll be relevant to you. And taking that forward, it's satisfying. And that satisfaction is the key to everything else working out. Because the more you feel it, the more you are it. The more
Yes.
you are it, the more you attract it, the more you allow it.
Yes.
And naturally, you're not trying to get rid of fears or problems then. They just drift, they shift off gently, like the gentle repelling of a magnet. If you have two magnets together, you slowly rotate them. They will gently, just naturally not attract. They'll repel, but repel is a strong word. They'll just move from each other without a problem. And equally, on the other side, you'll be attracting without any friction new things, new people,
Yes.
new relationships, new experiences in because of it. And that's where it is. And I give many years bumping my head off that because I'd heard it so many times from different people, from Tom Campbell, whom we is relevant, very relevant to the both of us, and we met at the MBT event, and many other teachers from internet and folks that I know, and essentially that's the message, is build that up. But it took a while to figure out what that is for me, how to do it slowly, because it was always like, just do that, one click, everything's done and it's solved.
No, 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 no.
Turns out it's not like that.
It's not
Turns
like
out,
that. I think,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I think that understanding the momentum of it, and that if you've been doing this a long time, it's going to have some momentum to it. But don't worry about that momentum. Incrementally, with your little cup of coffee, you just start doing it slowly. And then that slows down the momentum of that negative pattern. And then you can flip it to the other pattern. And then it just brings more positive into your life as you do this work. Yeah, go ahead.
Cheryl, that's absolutely right.
Excuse me, I'm still trying to recover from Europe. The weather was so foreign. So I still have a little bit of congestion because it was just raining the whole time and it was so cold. So I'm pretty much well. So excuse me if I have a little cough here and there, but go ahead.
No, not at all. You sound great.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Even the cough sounds great. Powerful. Get it in there.
I am proud of my coughing because I spent 2 weeks and had the most wonderful time. I was walking 8 miles a day in the drizzling rain. I just found out how resilient I am.
Good, isn't it, that discovery?
Yeah.
What a perfect thing to say. Now, there's an example of your own value and appreciating it and seeing it and thinking, yeah, I did that. I feel good. I've done incrementally more exercise and now I do that and it feels good to me. It's not like a chore. And that's incremental, like exercise, physical strength, spiritual steps, progress, growth. All of it is that little bit of incremental growth all the time. And it's logarithmic in its payback. It's not one for one. Right. It's an exponential improvement. So we get those tiny little victories and we just become aware, become a little conscious of them. Become fair and honest, as I said, and that's with yourself. And those little victories just happen. You mentioned the great word momentum. And that momentum, as you do it, the positive momentum is growing all the time. You don't even have to put your mind on something like that. It just is happening. Yeah. And because that's happening, your awareness is on it. You're thinking good things about yourself. You're thinking, and it doesn't even have to be about yourself. You can just think thoughts that feel good. It doesn't matter what the area can be. I love the cat. I love the color of the leaves in spring as the buds emerge. I love watching rabbits run across. I love watching traffic. Pick it. It doesn't matter what it is. But anything positive that makes you feel good adds to the momentum of good things in your life. And the alignment to that good thing, those good things. And all of the stuff that's maybe not working out or hasn't been feeling as good as we believe it should feel, well, that'll just naturally lose momentum when your attention's over here on good things. It's not over here on the negative. And so just because of that, that'll slow down and slowly dissipate. And this will speed up, positive will speed up and increase. And that's all you do. Don't try and stop a fear, or don't try and beat it to the ground and kill it off. Ignore it. Yes, ignore it. Ignore it, gently ignore it. Don't intensely ignore it because you're thinking about it. Just gently ignore it. Just be like, oh, that's all right. That's all right. Yep. And like traffic, you're living in a house and there's a road nearby and you hear the traffic pass. And after a short time, if you don't listen to it, it isn't there. Yes. And you put your mind somewhere else on stuff that's good for you, that feels good, and that ultimately over time will take you in that happier, more satisfying trajectory in your life where all the desires, the wishes, the prayers for stuff, well, it's only then can any of that start to appear, because then you're aligned with it. You mentioned we create our own reality. We do, but it's vibrational. And it's from
Yes.
vibrational, it slows down to thought almost. And from thought, we can bring it to physical. But
Yes.
you have to have that in that way. And if we are always asking for something, well, asking for something really strong means we really don't have it.
That's a good one, Bill.
Right? I
Yes.
really want this.
And,
Well,
and you're
really,
white
what you're
knuckling it,
hearing is, I
going,
really don't
oh, I
have it.
gotta have it.
Yeah.
And then it can't come to you. And, you know, as you talk around this, you know, the process of creation, I've, you know, been trying to find the keys to unlock that door for a long time. And I've gotten a couple of the keys now. And so I've been playing with it. And it's a
Yeah.
gentle, you think about, oh, wouldn't it be nice? And then it gently
Wouldn't it be
you bring in
nice?
a positive vibration, go, oh, that would be fun. That would be fun if I could
Sure.
do this and meet up with this person, or go do this and go to a wonderful beach somewhere, or just have a good time somewhere, you know. And then you there's one more step. You got to push the run button. You got to either send an email, you got to do something in the physical that starts. It's like writing a program in your mind. You write the program, you wrap around some positive vibrations in it, and then you hit the run button. And that is anything physical. And say if you're trying to get a job or a new job that you would really like to do, then you say, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I could work there? Oh, and I would have so much fun with all the people I would meet, because they would be more like me, and I could live to my full potential and do everything I can do here. And then you can just go and write an email, and you can send it to nowhere, you know. You write the email at, you know, hello, I'm going to be your new employee and I'm going to be coming on board soon. And then you just send it out to nowhere. You don't have to send it even to anybody, but you've got to do something in the physical to hit that run button, make that program go. When I started doing that, everything changed, Bill. It was just like, oh my goodness, this works, and this works really fast. But it comes, you know, you've got to work on that process of that inner value and that inner work, so that you can get to this place where you can do this. And I, you know, listening to what you said about, you know, how we slow down this momentum of negative thinking about ourselves, because I was the most negative person on the planet. I was. And
There'll be competition out there, Cheryl.
nobody liked me.
There'll be competition.
Nobody liked me, and I didn't like me either. So how could I expect them to like me? And so, and it had so much momentum.
Made it impossible.
And then I would try to put my foot out, like putting the foot out, like to break myself, you know, and then it would just take my whole shoe off, you know, because it had so much momentum in it. And that's how I started undoing it, is the process that you're talking about right now. And I'm not always positive. I still work on stuff. I still got stuff going on. But what I notice is, like as I go to take a walk, you know, in a beautiful forest, and I notice the trees. Oh, look how pretty this is. And, you know, just giving these positive things to myself. Oh, I'm doing this so I can be stronger and be more resilient, to be able to go out into the world and do the things I want to do. And so that was how I started to slow that momentum of that negative bind that I had in myself. You cannot chase it down and drag it and wrestle it to the ground. You just can't, because it gets bigger. It just makes it worse. It just gets bigger. And so, it's that way with everything, you know, whatever you're focusing on, negative, positive, it's just going to get bigger, because our awareness and our intention and focus on something is a very powerful creative force. So there's my rant for the day.
Well, Cheryl, it sounds like you figured out your own process that really works for you.
It's working, you know, it's working to the point to where I have become a more positive person to myself and everybody around me. And I'm getting more positive, you know, input from others, you know, and so I am a living example. You can be a super negative, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong or that you're bad. It just means that you got into this cycle that a lot of us get into, of just really, you know, not being kind to ourselves when we do things in this world that looks like a mistake to us, but we're here to grow. And, you know, I think a lot of it, I thought about this, Bill, and in my culture, you know, for the children, if you make a mistake, you're just punished harshly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so with that programming of, oh, I'm bad and look what I've made a mistake here, we
Mm-hmm.
continue to do that to ourselves throughout the rest of our life, just judging ourselves harshly, because in a way we're trying to keep from being punished, because that was no
Mm-hmm.
fun, and it
Mm-hmm.
hurt, and I think that that's one of the paradigms. If we could help shift that a little bit around parenting, and doing positive parenting instead of looking at everything negative that happens, just let that be the lesson for the child. Well, you forgot to put your shoes on, now you've stumped your toe and it's bleeding. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe next time we can put our shoes on and this won't happen, and just let
Mm-hmm.
them have the consequences of their mistakes, instead of bringing them in and just harshly punishing them over
Mm-hmm.
over things that the children have to learn to grow up, because
Mm-hmm.
we know nothing when we come here as children. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. We look around and watch everybody, but we don't know. We have to learn it all. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that the punishment mode of all of that, I think all that does is just create people who are hard on themselves, who beat themselves up. They can't have their worth and their value, and it just makes for a mess in there. And I think we should make mistakes great again. Just make mistakes good, make it a good thing. And it also affects our ability to make choices. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, I don't want to make that choice because I may pick the wrong thing, and it may not come out the way I want it to. It may come out negative or hurt somebody you love, or all
Mm-hmm.
of that. So I'm just not going to make a choice at all. I'm just going to sit back and not do anything. But if you don't do anything, you're still doing something, and you're
Oh,
not
you're still
progressing.
choosing. That's still a choice.
Not choosing is still a choice, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
sure.
all of that wraps around, and it creates a lot of stuff you've got going on in your mind around this. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to make choices here. We have to just get out there on that front row seat and just get your magic wand out and start creating. And if it doesn't turn out
Yep.
the way you want it, oh well, start asking yourself questions. What can I learn from this? How can
Mm-hmm.
I do this better in the future? Because it
Mm-hmm.
really, your reality is just a reflection of what you're doing. And all you need to do is look at it in a way of, this is to help me. This
Mm-hmm.
is to help me see what I'm doing so that I can grow and evolve my consciousness, which I think that's what it's all about anyway, right, Bill?
Mm-hmm. Certainly, Cheryl. Well, that does appear to be what it's about.
It appears that way.
It sure does, yeah. And it's making mistakes is, yeah. When you know what you don't want, you know better what you do want.
Yes.
Because a lot of time, that's something interesting too. I heard. Have you ever heard of Abraham Hicks? There's this wonderful woman called Esther Hicks, does some channeling and she makes videos and things. And I've heard her a few times. Amazing, wonderful person and wonderful information, and lots of people can help with it. I think it's great. And I've heard her say that when you know what you don't want, you more clearly know what you do want. And it was very, very wise. It sounds like just to throw out there, but it's have a moment to think about it, because one of the harder things to do when it's unpracticed is to clearly know what you want.
Yeah.
Because
What do you
if you
like?
think about it, yeah, well, you think about it, I'd say, what do you want? You be like, well, I don't want this, and I don't want this, and I don't want this, and I don't want this. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, no, okay. I said, what do you want? Well, I don't want this to happen, and I don't want, and you're like, what's going on there? There's a pattern that you can see. That's really useful because you can see a pattern. It's like, I'm not clear on what I want. I have obviously things that I don't want that maybe have happened or I've seen. Fine. But categorize them from that moment on as like, oh, I'd rather not have these. Well, that means, well, what do I want? What's on the mirror of this? What's on the other side of this? So, and then you can start to build in your imagination, your mind, a vision, ideas, words, feelings, sounds, however things come to you. I'm quite visual and audible, so I often say see, but it can be what I feel, what I hear, what I think. Um, but you can start to build that vision of, oh, well, I'd like this. And you'll use your words, Cheryl. Wouldn't it be fun for this and then this to happen? And maybe to add this. And the secret to that as well is uh, from a very beginning, I'll go back to the definition of words. Precision is very, very important in words, not so much in how you feel, because feeling is easy to know where that's at. But the precision with words is that, isn't it nice to meet these people? So if you're going to imagine something working out for you, I would leave out the words when or if,
Yes.
because in a sense that's not. So, oh, won't it be, that'll feel great if I meet this girl or this woman or this man or this boy or
Right.
whatever. But really, if you translate that, say, okay, well, what are you creating with that? Because everything is creative. That you're not taking, you can't take anything from this world. Everything is adding to it with every thought, with every emotion. So it'll be great if I meet them. If for me, again, personal is a doubt and not there.
Yeah,
So
you're right, and I do use the if a lot. You're right though. If is, it could be either way. It's not concrete.
mm,
When I do this, this is going to be good. Yeah, thank you,
mm,
Bill, for that. That's another
yeah.
tool. That's another tool in my toolbox.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're doing that, like you had a lovely run of saying those things. When you're doing it, let yourself go into the imagination of that it's already there, that you're in it. You're rather than, won't it be nice if this person's in it? Have an interaction in your imagination with a person that, in a way, you'd like to interact.
Yeah.
Be in the office you want to be in. Drive in the car you want to be. Imagine you're in it, you smell it, you feel it, you taste it, you hear it, all of this. Not when I get it or if I get it. The secret to this is to just incrementally let go of thinking you need to have it, right? Thinking it needs to be physically there before you can enjoy it, right? And just loosen up that die-hard death white knuckle grip on having to create everything and I want this or I'm not enough without it. So
Mhm.
soften those, let those white knuckles soften out.
Yeah.
And um,
And relax.
just
Just
relax into it
relax.
and just enjoy the tour of your imagination in it as it's happening. And then just let it go and
Yeah.
carry on with your day in an easy way, as best you can.
Yeah.
Little victories, incrementally giving yourself less guff. And over not that long a period of time, when you start doing that, you'll find that you'll be gone from the period of giving yourself guff to the period of like almost zero. And then you start being positive, you'll be nice about things. You say, well, oh, that worked out. I did that. That felt nice when I did it. That was a
Yes.
nice thing to do. And it wasn't, this will be nice and they'll like me for doing it. It's, I do it because it felt good for me.
Yes.
That's it. Don't, one of the one of the other things that is trippy up in a lot of this all the time, not at the beginning, but all the way through
Yeah.
life, is doing things to be seen to be doing them, or doing things because it looks nice or it's polite or people will appreciate it. Those are all very nice, and it's polite society is very important, and it obviously it's a great thing in growth and community. But as that moves forward and you build up that awareness of self, do it because it feels good for you. Do it because you enjoy it. Do it because you felt that little bit of satisfaction inside you. And when you look up, if there's another person involved, or if it's just something you do for yourself, when you feel that for yourself and it's just about that internal game, you'll notice that whomever was lucky enough to have you do something for them or be around them, they'll be feeling great within themselves. It won't be thanks for what you did for me. The door will be open for them and they'll just feel good, because as you value yourself that little bit more, the person you help gets a moment to value themselves a little bit more. You
Yes.
open it, you hold the door, and this, you feel it's unconscious to a degree, but just like, oh, thank you. I'm seen, I'm appreciated, somebody's helped. And it's not about somebody acting to do it, it's just you feel those things. You feel
Yes.
what I think about essentially in every individual's own words, they'll sort of think about in those moments of interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you'll be polite in return to a door that's held open in the act of politeness, and you will act polite in return. But when you open and you feel good for doing it, you'll feel good walking through it.
Yes. And what I think what you're speaking on right now is, as you feel good about what you're doing, that is, you know, kind of stepping back from that ego and doing things for other people because you want them to like you. See, if you're doing
100%.
it that way, it's
Yes.
backwards. So you're in a needy state. Oh, I need you to like me. And that,
Sure.
see, that it's a vibrational place here. So they don't feel, oh, look how this person is doing something nice for me. What they really feel is, oh, this person wants something from me. I need to move
Sure.
away. And
Well,
when
you do. You do want something from them. You want their attention on you because you held the door for them. Aren't I nice?
well, but that's not the, to me, that's not the reason you're holding the door. The reason you're holding the door is because you feel, because you want to, and because you feel good about holding the door open for them. It's not that
Oh, yes.
I'm
Sorry.
going to
Yes.
hold this
Sorry.
door.
I was sorry. I was referring to doing it as an act of doing it as an act of politeness rather than doing it as an act of because you really feel good doing it.
Right.
Sorry, that was I was speaking to the acting it in, or behaving that way because of polite, or you believe it'll work out, or you believe that somebody will be nice to you back, rather than doing it simply because it feels good for you.
Yes. Because it
And
feels good to give to others. It really does. Because when you
but
start,
only when you've understood what it is to feel good and give to yourself.
yes,
Because
we have to have that
if you
too.
don't know it for you,
You
you can
can't give
only
it to
act it for
anybody
others.
else.
Well, you can behave, but you don't feel the depth of it.
But that's
What
acting.
happened?
That's acting, and you're
Yeah.
not being authentic if you if you don't really feel it,
Well,
right? What do you think, Bill?
I would say yes, yes and no, which great answer, right? Well, yes, it's inauthentic, but it's also very authentic, right? Because here's the thing: while
Right?
I'm in a state of wanting that attention, wanting to be nice, I'm trying to be better. I'm still on that path. I'm really trying hard, and I'll open that door and I'll hold it open. I'll expect someone to be really happy about it. And if that doesn't happen, I go, oh, why didn't that happen? I'm still on the path to growth, right? But what's happening? Back at the very start point, because all of this is downstream of that one starting point,
Right.
your relationship and your awareness of your inner dialogue. What you say to yourself is not fair, which means it's not true, which means everything else is downstream of that will have a pretty bad wobble in it. It won't just work out because it's force. You're trying to make it happen. It's acted.
Yeah.
But more than even what happens, but how people react. It's
But then that
you,
wobble,
you ex-
wobble will help you see something, and it'll help
it,
you move forward because that wobble will get your attention, and then you'll think about it a little further, correct?
yes, it can, but it can also frustrate you even more.
True. Okay.
Right? So it can
We're
lock you
looking
down
at
more.
both
So
sides of the coin here, guys. We're looking at both sides of the coin. Bill's
yeah. Well,
Bill's
the
not
thing
leaving
is,
anything unturned.
you'll feel both, and you'll have felt
Right.
both. And anyone listening, watching, you'll have felt both. Right?
Right.
You'll be like, okay, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's this.
Right.
And the question is, and what's so drive you crazy is, how is it not consistent? What's happening
Yeah.
that it's not consistent? Why one time it feels empty and unfulfilling and didn't work? What I expected good things to happen downstream all went wrong. But another time where I'm just not worrying about it, I'm doing it because it feels good. It just feels good, and that's okay. I don't need any more than that. I don't need to see anybody acknowledge it. I don't need. It doesn't matter. I feel good, and as a consequence of that, just everything kind of works a little nicer. Things just generally feel a little better around me. So, and it's one and the other. And what you want to do is maybe bring a little more awareness to your sensitivity of what feels better for you and what feels slightly off. Because for a long time when we're speaking smack to ourselves or whatever word you want to use, it's we get a little numb. We lose a little bit of the sensitivity of you give yourself some guff and it's just normal then. You don't feel that sensitivity that should say, whoa, that's unfair. Because it happens all the time. It's like a callus, builds up, right? Protects you.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's also at the same time, calluses, they're handy in some places, but not everywhere. Right?
No, they're not. Not around your heart. They're not. They are not handy.
No, not around your heart. That's absolutely true. So I would, yeah, do it that way. Just do it because it feels good for you, and build up your sensitivity to how you feel in
Yes.
yourself. Play songs you like, look at things you like, Drink the drinks you like, eat the food you like. And the more you do that, the more you build up your awareness of what feels good for you.
Yes.
And then with that, it's easier to find out what doesn't. And these are all everyday tools that are really usable, really, really easy to incorporate into everyday habit. None of them take, well, they don't take anything outside of just the slightest drip of awareness, just a drop. And oh, that feels a little better. Good. And give yourself that moment of acknowledgement. That felt good. I'm glad I chose that.
Oh,
And
yay.
move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed in a couple of weeks to a couple of months, you'll be in a different place. You'll feel genuinely feel, and as that feeling grows, as that value rises, as that awareness of feeling a little better rises, and the fairness comes, you start then to feel what the search for that fulfillment in actions starts to come. That fulfillment comes out of how you feel, not what you've done. And
Yes.
so the fulfillment becomes something that's almost always there. Whether you're sitting reading a book in your own home, you're holding a door open for somebody, or you're doing some big wild deal in business, or you're merging something, it doesn't matter what you do. That fulfillment then is you. It's more and more a part of you in every day. And that's the payoff. And that's what we're all chasing, because we can get all the stuff in the world, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I thought there'd be more fulfillment. I thought it would last longer. I thought, you get the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
But as the fulfillment is more and more in life, the satisfaction is there more often. Well, that feeling of like, wow, the payoff, that's already there. It's there all the time. Stuff doesn't have to happen for you to feel satisfied, to feel good, to feel content, to feel really like proud of what you've done.
Yeah.
Not, and
Feel
I
better
don't, when
about
I say proud, yeah, not show you look at me, which is fine too. If that's how some people are very outgoing, or some people are very, what's the word I'm looking for?
introverted.
Extroverted.
Yeah.
So they like to process externally, and that, don't mistake that for empty ego or looking for attention. That can be just how people are, different personality
Yeah.
types.
Yep.
Well, I know what those are, but yeah, start with that and build that up, and that's an amazing process. I mean, it really, really works. I'll give you, actually, just while we're at this point of it, a visual, a metaphor and a visual, so to use, that can be really useful. And I've found as well, a lot of people like it. It's easy to hold in your mind. It's easy to understand it. And it is, picture a champagne glass pyramid. Whether you've seen one in reality or in movies or whatever, you see that beautiful champagne glass pyramid.
Right.
And you are the individual. You're that top glass that the maitre d' comes along and he pours his bottle of
Right.
champagne into it. And when it's full, it fills the next three, and then the 7 and 21, whatever. So we're that top glass.
Okay.
Now, as we start to understand ourselves and move towards a little more positivity, that glass is filling up. That's what I mean by feeling more value in yourself, value in how you feel more. Because if we value how everyone else feels and we try and make them feel better, but we're just a little numb to how we feel. So let's start with that. And as we're feeling better and our values go, and we're fulfilling that, the expression, fill your own cup, and then your overflow will fill others. So
Yes.
you look at this, you do that, you take care of yourself, really do. And that cup or that glass fills up and overflows. And those right below you, those are your most significant others, those you love the most, your kids, your husband, your wives, your friends, your sisters, your whomever. The next close, and all of that you are, that joy, that overflow, that positive momentum that is you, that is building in you, is overflowing into them. And again, you're not teaching, you're be the example and the invitation.
Yes. You're
That's what I'd say.
You're just being, and then it's emanating out from you. And then that is the energy of the connection with yourself that can flow through you once you stop beating yourself up. Because it can,
absolutely,
that's stopping all of that. When you're beating yourself up, you're putting a negative vibration in yourself, and it just emanates out from you everywhere. And when you start slowing this thing down and loving, things around you, and I think it's just more, you're nurturing you. You're nurturing you too, along with everybody else. You got to put yourself in the nurturing basket also, and not just nurture around you and then forget all about yourself, because you're a person too. And so, yeah.
Well, you're the star of your own movie, Cheryl, because you're in it 24/7. Your most significant other people are in there maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. You're in it 24 hours.
Right.
So be the star of your movie. But back to the pyramid is, when you're fulfilled, you're filling all those, and that just grows out and out and out into your community.
Right.
But why is that also important? You're always going to be that top class on your pyramid in your life, because you're that star of your own movie, you're that top one. But if you're not fulfilled, if you're depleted, or it's not even that, misunderstood because of bad habits.
Yes.
Right? We misunderstand with bad habits. Instead of fulfilling and overflowing to everybody, even though you're there and it looks pretty, you're kind of a weight on everybody. So it's worth the effort to treat yourself better and understand what that is, and understand that it's that fairness. If nothing else, be at least fair in what you say to yourself for your mistakes. Don't say any more than you would genuinely, honestly say to your very best friend or whoever that is in your life. Never do any more than that. Think, what would I say to them if they did this? Be really honest. Then that you can say to yourself. But here's another thing, you can't go beating the drum of it all day long, all week long, all month long. You wouldn't do that to your friend, would you?
No.
Every moment you get, you pick the phone up. Hey, you know the mistake you made. Don't feel bad about it. You made a mistake, right? No, you have to be fair. So if you wouldn't treat them like it, you can't treat you like it. So build up that friendship. Get to become your own friend. Yes. It's not loving yourself. It's becoming your own best friend.
Yes.
That's what it is. And that's the distinction that's very important.
It is.
You won't lie to your best friend. You won't sell him out. You'll always be honest. And you'll want, the other thing is as well, we're saying about, giving yourselves guff. Here's equally important, just on the other side of that scale. Make sure that you celebrate those little victories. That you, when things go good, that you celebrate it, that you acknowledge that. And you be like, yeah, one more win. One little win, little victories.
Look at me.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah. Even if it's down to that, that's a nice cup of coffee. That's
celebrate your success, because then that pulls that momentum out of that negative spiral you got. Because when you're celebrating you and you're celebrating successes that you have, you are not being negative about yourself.
No, you're not. You're not. But you can't. You can't have both.
Right.
At the one time. You've one or the other. So the other thing I would say as well is, why does it happen? And it's simply down to lack of awareness. There's loads of theories, and I mean, some people, they have a hard time, don't get me wrong. And the world delivers from the greatest upbringings to stuff we don't want to talk about, rough ones, and everything in between. That's life. And the beauty of the diversity of that is, you don't know what comes out of that. You never know. The real harsh start has produced some amazing people that are doing amazing things. You don't know. And living with that uncertainty and with the humility to be like, I don't know. I will do my best in my sphere. That's it. And let's see what the rest of the world does. And I simply don't know. But celebrate those little victories, and that momentum will build. And that's that'll allow in the answer to the prayers you've asked. Because your prayers get answered, they just don't get let in. Your wishes get fulfilled, but they just don't necessarily materialize, because you can't get an answer if you never stop asking the question. Ask a question, and then don't just wait to ask it again. Let it be, and let your answer happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be harder to start, because starting out at this thing, and if you're in a place where you're really dissatisfied, you really want out of it. I really want satisfaction, right?
Let me out.
It seems like, you want to just leap from that dissatisfied in one Superman jump and land in the satisfied land and feel good.
I want to feel good again. This is terrible. Yeah.
Well, that's a bit of a neat trick, but it's also mostly for the comic book Superman that can do one leap.
Yeah, that's not
So,
happening. You've got to slow this momentum down slowly. It doesn't, you
yeah,
can't blast off like a rocket. Okay, I'm
no.
positive now. Doesn't work.
Well, no, well, you can act it, but it won't have power, it won't have teeth.
Right.
So build up the little victories so you spin up your positive momentum and
Yeah.
just leave it at that. See
Yeah.
anything negative? Don't even talk about it. Don't even bring it into the conversation. Just ignore it. It's like that traffic noise. It's like whatever's going on that it's just not interesting to you. And if you focus on it, it just won't do you any good.
Well, it just gets
So
bigger. If you focus
sure,
on
of
it, it just
course,
gets
of
bigger,
course
you
it does.
know?
Yeah, you attract more of that. More
Yeah.
that'll come into your life. Because
Yeah,
the reason you attract is because that's in your vision.
it is.
We said earlier, you envision your future, envision your thing. And if it's always negative, that's the vision you're creating, and then you're going to live through it.
Yes,
Right?
it's coming. And
Yeah.
you're
And
on the
so
front
like
row
it's
seat and it's about you because you're doing it. What
you're in the front row seat and it's all hitting you. It's like a 3D experience,
it's
right?
just all coming right at
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
It's
and
better than what is it, IMAX or something, all this. It's
it
way better than
is.
that. Yeah, you
It
feel
is.
the slaps, right? It's
You can,
you
oh
know.
yeah, it's like a cosmic 2x4 just coming and slapping you right in the head. It
That's
is.
very, but yeah, it absolutely is. And so, but on the other side, when you let go and you're feeling satisfied, it's like a cosmic hug.
It
So that
is.
brings
Like,
all
oh,
the
come
beauty, the
here.
love, and yeah, it
It
does. And
is. It
that
really
feels
is.
really, yeah, that feels great.
Well, I think we can have like one more concept here that I would love to, think around with you.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I'm not going into the negative. I want to just touch it and then I'm going to bounce out. And then
Hmm.
we had two talks at Beamish. The other talk
Hmm.
was about this. As you know, there's been some things happen the last few years that has, sped up the momentum of some of the negative thinking around life and things
Hmm.
like that. And I've met, quite a few people who are just, they're stuck, they're in this negative feedback loop still around all of it. And it's just got so much momentum. It's just
Hmm.
really hard to talk, with the people. You can see that, they're just in this negative space. And then when they feel, some positive vibes coming from you, they just want to grab you and hang on and let me get on your merry-go-round because this is terrible and I want off. And I
Hmm.
had several people talk to me about this, and that's what I was telling them. I said, well, this thing has a bit of momentum to it, and it's, you
Hmm.
can't put your foot out and stop it like a brake. You've got to just
Hmm.
stop it a little bit at a time. And you were talking about, when we see and observe someone that's in this place where they just want out and they can't find, a positive thought to hang on to because it just has so much momentum. You were talking around, what can we do to help? How can we help people that are in this merry-go-round and spinning so fast they can't get off? You had talked about, how we could talk to them, and
Hmm.
how we can just put that positive vibe there, let them feel it a little bit, and then we can let them, observe that, and then,
Hmm.
like repeating what they say back,
Hmm.
just being there and being present with them in that, not
Hmm.
saying, oh, well, you're just thinking wrong and you need to quit it, because that's not going to
Hmm.
help. It doesn't help
No.
anything. So
Hmm.
you had given me a couple of tools to help me, because I am encountering that in my life. And when I
Hmm.
go out and I move around about in the world and I see it, and people come up to me and they want to talk, and then they want to talk about all the negative that's happening right now. And
Hmm.
so what can we do to help others, stop this momentum that they're in, that they're desperately trying to get out of? You had some great ideas. You wanted to share those with us?
Well, that's a great question, to be honest, Cheryl. And it's a real thing and it's very common. And well, I'd start with this. First off, none of us ever want to be told what to do. Not if you're a baby, not if you're a toddler, teenager, middle age, old, doesn't matter.
We have
We
free
come
will.
into this, we do. And that's the fundamental driver within us. We're so free, we can choose to be in hell on a daily basis. Usually not consciously, usually bad habits build and we're in it, but we still choose it. And but we can also choose to move our way out of it, think our way out.
Right, right.
Now, when you're in that low spiral and you're paying attention to, the last couple of years we had the Rona thing, and we've had the stuff over in the east here with Russia, Ukraine, and a few other bits and pieces, and
Yes.
lies here and there. The usual
Lies here and
culprits
there.
there. But yeah, the old story. The politician lied, which is not a surprise. The
You
news
know
has
when they're
got a bit
lying,
of,
right? When they open their mouths.
yeah, the lips moving, right?
The lips are moving.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
there's that, and there's people say there's media has got a bias, a slant. We all have a bias or a slant based on what it is we know at the time, what it is we believe,
Right,
what we think we'd like, how
right.
we think they should be doing it, and how everything would be
Right.
great if everyone did what I said they should do.
Right.
Right? At least I'd be content. So we got to bear that in mind. So
Right.
one, nobody wants to be told what to do. And so even if you're in a spiral where, man, it really feels bad, it feels like the whole world is on fire and everything's going to kill you and all of this other
Yeah.
stuff. Well, first and foremost, and you know this, it doesn't help to tell somebody that that's not true, because
No, doesn't
you can't
help.
hear it.
They
You
can't.
well, you can't hear it. We've all been there in some funk or whatever, and you can't hear it, and it doesn't help. So what would I say? The best thing is to be a good listener. And the other thing is to understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. Now,
Yeah,
the distinction is very, very important.
it is.
Empathy is, I can see where you're at. I can understand what you're thinking. Yeah, I get it. I don't necessarily agree. I don't necessarily disagree. But I hear you. I know where you're at. That's okay. I don't have an input. That's empathetic. I see where you're at, and that's fine. I'm not pushing in or out. I don't agree, disagree. Sympathy is more like, oh, poor you. Why it's so awful is it's victimy. It's got that victim stench to it. And
It's
that's
negative
another reason.
emotion. You're putting
Well,
negative emotion into that. Oh,
sure.
here
Well,
in Texas, they say,
it's like,
bless your heart.
oh,
It's like,
yeah, bless your
oh, let
heart.
me
It's like,
feel negative for you.
what are you really saying? You're saying, well, you're too weak to straighten this.
Yes. Oh, did we lose Bill?
Oh,
There he is.
pardon me for that. For some reason, yeah, excuse me. For some reason, it cut in with a call. But back to, yeah, the victim thing is you're playing the victim. It's not good for you, and it's why it's so off. Is it's weak, and that's also a lie. The
Alive.
same as that. Fundamentally, it's a lie, and that weakens you. When you hold on to a lie, there's nothing you can do. It'll attract more things that don't match up, i.e.,
Yes.
call them lies, call them misfortunes, call them whatever. You'll
Yes.
attract more of it. More of it comes in because that's what you're seeing, that's what you envision, that's what you live through,
Yes.
in a sense. So that's first off. Second is learn, be a good listener, be an empathetic listener. Don't jump into where they're at. Empathy means I listen to you. I don't have to jump into where you are, and I don't have to pull you out of it either.
Right.
Right? You're free. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to pull you out of it. I'm not going to push you into it.
I got a good one for this. Observe, don't absorb.
Oh, nicely said. Yeah,
you can feel the vibration, but just observe it. You don't have
Yep.
to bring that vibration within yourself. You just
Well, I'd say
observe
don't
it.
bring it. Yeah, don't bring it into yourself.
Don't
Observe
bring it
it
yourself and
be,
just hold
no.
your good vibe, because your
Yep.
good vibe is really what is underneath it all that's going to help in the long run, and the listening. So go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's right, Cheryl. That's absolutely right. And when you're really low, somebody who's feeling really good will just seem so off to you. You'll just hate it because it's so far from where you are. It's a real discord. Just doesn't feel good,
It
disharmony.
doesn't.
But a good listener is you're not, back to it, you're not trying to tell somebody to feel better, and you're not telling them why they feel the way they feel.
Right.
You just, maybe they don't even speak. Maybe you're just there. And you're feeling quietly good in yourself, and you're thinking thoughts that make you feel good. And you're like, well, you can see somebody who's really struggling, but don't see them as struggling. Don't see them as a victim. When you look at them, see them in their glory. See them at their peak, at their best, with a smile on their face. I mean, like any imagination thing, you can look at your car and you can see it as some attractive car that you think you want, and just pretend it's in that. So when you look at the person, just see them as, healthy, happy, strong, balanced, content, nurturing, loving, caring, being loved, being appreciated, being valued, bringing value, offering value, all of those things. And that's very useful because unconsciously you'll feel that when somebody looks at you, they see you whole. They see you strong and healthy and content and happy. Not tell you, just they feel it about you. That's really useful. Being told when you're feeling low and all hell's breaking loose and you're negative and the news is bad and you're afraid we're all going to die in a nuclear holocaust and then be beaten and eaten and chewed and walked on. Pick your story. But that's not going to feel good. So somebody just to listen to you. And
Yes.
I mean, listening is a skill and it can be learned. But you listen to folks. And when we speak, because what happens in the mind when we think is not the same as when you speak it. You can think something and put it to words and watch how it's different. So being a good listener is giving somebody a space to verbalize what it is they're thinking. When you verbalize what you've been thinking, mostly that'll open the door and help you to actually consciously then think about what it is that's spinning in your head. Because when it's always spinning in your head, you're not even conscious. It's like a stuck record, a program that just runs without your input.
Right.
When you get to speak it because somebody's able to listen, you get to formulate your thoughts more coherently. You
Right.
get to have more control and you hear them and you're putting voice to it. It's a physical thing. It's
Yeah.
bringing them into more of a reality. And so you get to measure them in a sense.
Right.
And how do they measure up? And you're like, oh, that doesn't sound necessarily even all that useful to me. But this will be something that you do for yourself. And you can only do it for yourself because you can't hear anyone telling you what to do because you just
No.
push back. But
Right.
you can hear yourself think through it and speak through it. So when you speak it, you're unlocking it for yourself all the time.
Right.
And you're formulating your thoughts and it helps to think because in order to think, you have to be able to speak.
Yes.
So speak it out and it starts to make sense. And from that, you can very quickly get yourself on track, because then the traction's in. You're like, oh, that was way different when I spoke it than when I thought it.
Right. Oh my God, that's what's going on in me. Because now their awareness is more tuned to, oh, this is what's coming out of me. And that the concept around this I see as holding space for someone. You're just holding a
Yes,
space so that they can process this data themselves. And really, we
absolutely.
can't change other people. All we can do is change ourselves. So in
Mhm.
that thought, all what you can do for others is just be quiet, hold the space. See, I talk a lot, so I'm working on being more quiet. But everybody has
I
their
would
work
say
to
you're a
do.
good listener. I would say you're a good listener.
I've been working on it, and I can listen, and I think that I've gotten better at it when I learn to observe and don't absorb, because I am a very emotional person. So when I
Mhm.
do feel some of these vibrations coming at me, to be honest, I just want to go away.
Sure, of
I
course.
want to roll around in some good vibes because that's what I like. I mean, hey, it's just, I think it's fun. But I also want to be there for others and help them, because it's not
Mhm.
all about me. It's about others too. And that's what love is to me, is loving others, loving myself, and,
Mhm.
doing what I need to do, and, doing what I can do to help, instead of, telling people what to do, because that does not help. And so,
No,
because really, when you're talking to somebody and they're in this process, really a lot of people, they're just really trying to help. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it
That's
must be
right.
miserable for you to be there. So hey, come over here and let's do this. They can't do that. And so I think
No.
that was part of the thing where I was having trouble as this was rolling out and doing what it was doing. It's like, I don't know what to do here. And then I talked to you, and it's like, oh, that's perfect. You just observe and you don't absorb. You just
Mhm.
listen and let
That's
them
right.
externalize all this stuff that's going on within them, because then
Yep.
they can put their awareness on it, and then they can get themselves out of it, right? So I love your ideas around this, Bill.
Yeah, you got it, Cheryl. Absolutely. And that's what it is. And so nobody wants to be told, and we can't be told what to do. But
No.
we can certainly be mentored and guided, and you can have people around you that care. So they're an example. And when as each of us gets incrementally a little bit better, we grow a little up, we become a little bit of a higher quality of consciousness, a higher quality of a person. And that's an aspiration. That's a target. That's a direction. It's not a destination. It's
Right.
an ever incremental growth in every moment. There's not a point where you get to that it's done.
It's about the
That's
journey.
well, it is. There is only the journey.
That's all there is.
Yeah,
The
that's all there
journey,
is. There is
process.
just journey. It doesn't stop. It's every moment only once.
Right. Just keeps it going.
So it does. It does. But yeah, to think it out, to get it out. I would say another thing that's really useful for folks who are really, and now I would say that's fear. You're afraid of a nuclear problem. You're afraid of a bug or a virus or some old nasty thing going to get you. Well, I would say two things to that. First off, understand that nobody here gets out alive.
If
Right?
I die, I
So,
die.
yeah, at the end of it, it's clearly a very important part of life because we all have to experience it. So you're like, okay. So one, we got to slowly make peace with that. Well, I had to do it slowly. It wasn't a click. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't say I haven't made peace with it yet either. It's not something I'm inviting. I love my life. I love being alive. It's a thrill.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
so disappointed if I wasn't. So,
Right?
yeah, I'd be lame. So, excuse me. That was one. What was the other thing I was going to say? I'd lost my train of thought momentarily.
It's okay. It happens. We are doing it.
Yeah, that's life, right? That's the fun of life.
But yes, I think that, we can kind of start wrapping this up.
All right.
Seeing them is good. Observe, don't absorb. And that's what you were talking about. You were talking about I just lost my train of thought. Okay.
Nice one. There you go. Just proves the point, eh?
And it really is the journey to the self, the journey, the inner journey to learn about who you are and your place in this, reality. And as we all learn and grow, we come to realize it's just an ever expanding journey of creative, consciousness that we are. And as we learn and grow, then the whole thing learns and grows with us. So I think it's been a beautiful discussion that we've had, Bill, and we will have to continue these. There's so much more that I would love to think around with you here.
Absolutely, anytime. I remember what I was going to say.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you got it. Do it.
It was the second point. Well, it was to slow the momentum of that fear and that feeling really low. Is substitute watching the news and reading articles and papers and that. Substitute it with things that feel good to you. So if you like screens on or you like entertainment, it can be hard to be in silence for a while. So instead of the news being on your telly playing in the morning when you're getting breakfast or through your lunch or your evening, put on music. Turn off telly, put on the Spotify or whomever plays your music or YouTube or these things, and pick out either conversations that are uplifting, listen to some comedy. It depends what you do. Pick out songs you like.
Yeah.
And do your best to pick out songs that are a little more uplifting. Even if you're in a kind of a low mood and you want to play that low kind of a sad thing, that now and then that's okay, but try and pick something that's slightly not way out, but slightly more uplifting and incrementally crawl up out of it. Listen to stuff you like, eat food that's nice for you. Be careful with your diet. If you're feeling real low and depression or something like that for quite a while, look very carefully at what you're eating. And I would suggest do something along the lines of elimination. Cut a lot out of your diet and start from 2 ingredients for a week or a couple of days, see how you feel, and build it up and add them all back in. Because, we eat multiple times a day, every day of our lives. So that's a huge impact on the physiology, the chemical composition. There's a lot of the factors in our bodies that are little chemical factories, and they require lots and lots of little different things all day long. Yes. So if you're feeling real low and you're having trouble, and maybe physically or mentally or something, there's fogs and weaknesses, I would say be careful with the food. Cut it down to, as best you can, as few items as possible, and try to have those items as straightforward a food as possible. So me personally, I like meat. I like beef and lamb and things like that. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if that's your thing, try just meat and chicken and water for a day or two or three. See how you feel. If that's not your thing, try something simple. If it's a vegetable thing, but pick out ones that are easily digestible,
Hmm.
um, easily got, fresh, and that when you eat them, that you genuinely feel better.
Yes.
Because a lot of it is types of fat in our bodies. In the mind, the brain's a big old fatty organ, and it likes a lot of
We
fat.
have fat heads.
We do internally with fat heads, and also externally. But there's certain types of that animal proteins that are really useful, or plant. But I would say look into that too. But definitely exchange the news and podcasts who are talking about the news or current events. Let it go for a while and put in stuff that you're curious about, that's going to be of a different vibration, a different story, music, comedy, nature programs, or old movies that are funny.
Yeah.
Your old Steve Martin, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, or who
Yeah.
knows, some classically funny, deeply funny movies, and that kind of thing. And you'll find yourself feeling better. And then,
Mhm.
because understand this too, all of those stories that are going on around the world, you don't know, right? And it's
We have no
outside of
control.
ourselves. And no, and also the more you feel that you don't have a control on it, the more weak we feel, the more of a victim to circumstance we feel. And that's not helpful either. And it's also not accurate. It's just a
Right.
belief. A belief is a thought that you just
Just
don't
keep
change. It
thinking.
just stays. Yeah, it just keeps thinking.
Yeah.
So do that. Look at that as well. And realize, bring your awareness, your focus on all world events. Let the world take care of itself. It's well able. All
Yes, it
right. You don't
is.
have to. You don't have to worry about Gaia or the planet. You don't have to worry about country here, country there. Nothing. Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. She can take
Just
care of herself, and she will.
she will, and so will everybody else.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean don't care about people, but it means put your focus where you'll have influence. Number
Yes.
one, that's within yourself. So if you want the world a better place, make yourself a better person. So talk kind, learn who you are, get to know, build that up. And you'll find that that'll have an influence on those immediately around you. They
Yes.
have an influence on those around them. And so you have 1 to 3, 3 to 9, 9 out it goes. 27 and on it goes and on it goes. Or you're
Yeah.
however many steps away from 1,000 to 1,000,000, not many.
Yeah.
And so that's if you genuinely, genuinely in your heart want to foment change in the world for the better, then it may sound cliched, you can only slowly but surely work on yourself.
Be the
And
change that you want to see in the world is such
that's
a
right.
true thing. And
It's
Bill,
everything.
it's
It's
everything.
everything.
It really is.
It
It's like,
really is.
well, I'm looking out there. I'm going to fix that out there, and then the world will be a better place. And we've got it
Yeah.
backwards. It's backwards.
Well, the lovely, when you point at something, the way they say one finger
Yeah.
points at you and these three are pointing at me. It's like, I need to fix the world.
Me.
Yeah, me, my world.
Because we are the world, and we are very powerful creators here. And once we get that straightened out, then everything else straightens out. And I believe
Yeah.
that with every fiber in me. And I love, love, love this talk, Bill. I had such a wonderful time. And please tell me that you'll come back and do it again. I think that everybody is going
Anytime,
to
Cheryl.
just really appreciate everything that you do for humanity and for yourself. And how wonderful you are, as you moved around in Beamish Hall, all the good vibrations that were there, because you are being the change we want to see in the world.
Well, there's also a small selfish element to it, and it is this. It feels really, really genuinely good to have fun and be around people who are lovely.
It does feel good, doesn't it,
It
Bill?
feels great. And so it's like, why not? If it feels good, do it.
Do it.
Right? There's a quote.
There it is.
Yeah. How's that for a finisher?
That's great for a finisher. And thank you so much. And we're going to do this again sometime. And thank you for coming
Anytime.
to the front row seat with us today.
I'll say it was great meeting you as well. Just to finish off, Cheryl, meeting you at yourself and Beth in Beamish Hall was an absolute highlight. I knew straight away there was fire there. I was like, yes, these are my people.
Oh, I don't know if it was fire or confusion because we
Probably confusion.
yeah, we were just completely outside of our element. We're used to a lot of sunshine, and Texas is the climate there is the exact opposite, is what I noticed. And my whole
Yeah.
system was going, what is happening? but
Yep.
but we made it and we got it all done, and it was a beautiful time. And it was such a wonderful delight to meet you there.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you
And
for
much
this
love to you,
opportunity.
Bill, and all your endeavors.
And to you too, Cheryl. And I hope this has been some use to people out there. And yeah, great. Thanks for all you're doing, and stay in that front row seat, Cheryl.
It's the only place I know to be now.
You be you.
I'm being me. You thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, no.